time. As you've probably heard by now, I've advised the Prime Minister earlier this fall that I will not be seeking re-election as a Member of Parliament for Central Nova during the next campaign in order to spend more time with my family. When I say I'm leaving for family reasons, I'd like to be a little more specific. Our path to creating a family was a challenging one. We've experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. When it comes to our kids, we have had micro-preemies, lengthy hospitalizations, medical interventions, and know the pain of losing our one-day-old daughter, Ruth, who I miss every day and who I love very much. Some of my closest families in recent years have been diagnosed with cancer and survived. They have suffered heart attacks and undergone triple bypass surgeries. While these examples have led to remarkable rebounds, other family members, like many others with whom I was very close, have passed away. The last 5 years may have been difficult, but they have also brought the most incredible joy. I have watched my daughter, Molly, who was born under difficult circumstances, grow into the most amazing, intelligent, curious, and interesting 8-year-old that I have ever met. She loves Taylor Swift, learning about ancient civilizations, playing video games, and last week I had the opportunity to watch her welcome hundreds of people to her elementary school's class Christmas concert in what I expect will be the first of many public speaking engagements. We also, a few years ago, welcomed our little boy, Jack Stanford Fraser, into the world. He has become a hilarious, rough and tumble, sweet little guy who loves his mom, monster trucks, showing off his skills on his balance bike to anybody who's going to watch, and roughhousing with his dad. Getting him to put on socks can be hit or miss. I've seen my wife, who is impressive beyond measure and who has borne a disproportionate share of the work in raising our family, not just bring our kids into the world, but also become an incredible and loving mother who would do anything for her children while she still manages to juggle parenting, work, and a PhD to boot. Sarah, you are absolutely incredible, and I love you without end. The past 5 years has had me reflect on what I hope the next 5 years to look like. And I can tell you, more than anything else, I want to spend more time with my kids, and I hope my kids are going to want to spend more time with me. I want meals with Dad to be part of the family's routine as the rule, not just the exception when he's home from Ottawa. I want to be able to make my wife coffee in the morning before she wakes up, and if we get the kids to bed at a reasonable hour, maybe even enjoy a glass of wine over a conversation in the evening. Through the most difficult and joyful personal experiences imaginable, I have become acutely aware of the finite nature of the time that we have with the people that we love. You blink and you miss it. So I'm going to spend a little more time with the people that I care about most. Now I love my job. I'm going to miss it. It's not just the best job I've ever had. It's the best job I can imagine having. It has been the most extraordinary privilege to serve as both the Member of Parliament for the community where I was raised and grew up and the Cabinet Minister for my home province of Nova Scotia. I'm going to miss the work and I'm going to miss the people immensely. The opportunity to help people who make good things happen in your community is incredible. It's like nothing else. The chance to have a positive impact on people's lives, whether at an individual level or on a national scale, is deeply rewarding. I want to say thank you in particular to the Prime Minister for the opportunity to serve. His support for me and for the initiatives that I've worked on over the years has allowed me to have a meaningful impact on my community and the people who call it home. His belief in the work our team was doing has allowed me to move the needle on policies of national importance, particularly those that are directed towards solving the national housing crisis. I want to thank my colleagues who serve in the House of Commons. You are the most interesting group of people I've ever worked with, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have worked alongside you. To my Nova Scotia and Atlantic Caucus colleagues in particular, past and present, you are so much more than co-workers. You are dear friends that I will keep for a lifetime. Never stop pushing for the betterment of Atlantic Canada and know that I will only ever be a phone call away. Je voudrais remercier aussi mes collègues francophones. Quand j'ai commencé en politique, je ne parle pas un mot en français. Je ne suis pas parfaitement bilingue maintenant, mais je vais continuer mes études en français. Merci pour l'opportunité d'apprendre la langue de Molière. C'est un cadeau extraordinaire. To the staff who've supported me on Parliament Hill and in my constituency, to those who've worked at home in particular, you've helped thousands of people who are our friends and neighbors realize tangible benefits and address their real concerns that impact their quality of life. I'm grateful for your service to Canada. I want to say thank you in particular to Janet MacDonald, who's been with me from the very start and who I first knew as Mrs. MacDonald back when we met when I was a grade 3 student at Frank H. MacDonald Elementary School, when I happened to be the same age that Molly is today. For those who've helped me navigate life on the Hill, I'm amazed by the impact that each of you has had on our country. The scale of the challenges that we've been wrestling together and the problems that we have worked to solve will be something that you should be proud of for a very long time. I know that I am. I will follow your careers closely, and I consider it an extraordinary professional honor to have served my country with you by my side. I want to thank my Chief of Staff, Savannah DeWolf in particular, who's been with me from my first few weeks as an MP and who has held virtually every position at every level in each of my constituency, Hill, campaign, and minister's offices over the last decade. You are as talented a professional as I have ever worked with in my career and are responsible for just about all the things that went well for me politically over the past 10 years. I also want to thank every volunteer who's given their time, donations, and energy to our campaigns over the last few election cycles. Without your engagement, we would not have had the opportunity to win a riding that has historically been viewed as nearly unwinnable for a Liberal candidate. You'll remember that it was our riding that Brian Mulrooney, who became a friend of mine before he passed, came to sit in and happened to be my first MP, no less, when he became opposition leader and needed a safe constituency for a Conservative in his first campaign as a Member of Parliament. While there's insufficient time to properly thank each of you who've made a contribution over the years, I want to express my profound gratitude to the families of Ray Wagg and Hilary Ammett, both of whom have passed away and who made enormous contributions to our organization on the ground. I miss you both and may never have had the chance to serve in Parliament without your effort and encouragement along the way. Politics is a force for good in this country, and public service matters to our collective well-being. The jobs elected officials have the privilege to hold for however long or short a time are so much bigger than any one person who may come to hold them. Those who have the opportunity to serve would do well to remember that the highest office holder in our system of government and politics is not the MP, minister, or even prime minister. It's the citizen that we have been elected to serve. It is the people who live in our communities that give us the authority to govern and to whom we owe a duty to do our very best to make this country a better place to live. The best political education that I've ever received hasn't come from the halls of power on Parliament Hill, but in the church basements, fire halls, wharves, and community centers in small town and rural Nova Scotia. This is where I found the people who know the needs of their families and their communities, and they're willing to share a lifetime of expertise in exchange for nothing more than a willingness to listen. I hope that I've had, in some small way, been able to use the lessons that I've learned from you along the way to have a positive impact on the communities that I've represented. The quality of our governance depends upon good people putting their names forward and our representatives in government engaging meaningfully with the people that they've been elected to serve, not with a view to attract attention to themselves, but instead to understand how the decisions that we make can be improved by considering the perspective of those impacted by them. The people I talk to tell me what their government should focus on. They believe that our government should focus on growing the economy and creating good jobs for working people. They believe that we should be making investments to advance progress on social programs that improve healthcare, housing, and affordability. They believe we need to protect our natural environment and do more to address the pressing threat of climate change. My view is that the Liberal Party is best positioned to advance these important causes, which are of paramount concern in both the short and the long term. So I will remain involved and supportive of the Liberal Party of Canada during the next federal election and for a very long time. But for now, Canada will have another housing minister. Next year, Central Nova will have another member of Parliament, but my kids will never have another dad. Sarah, Molly, and Jack, you mean the world to me. I love you all, and I can't wait to get home for Christmas. Thank you, everyone. I've got a cabinet meeting to get to at least one last time, but I'm happy to stick around for a few questions.
Thank you, Minister, for the last time. We're taking 4 questions. It'll be 1 question for reporters. We're going to start with Greg Quinn.
Good morning, sir. I realize we're stepping on some delicate ground here, but there's an expression in politics: timing is everything. I was in Nova Scotia during the election campaign there. You're well aware that Tim Houston won a very large victory over the Liberals, campaigning in part against Justin Trudeau over issues like the isthmus connecting Nova Scotia to Brunswick. You've also been touted as a leader for the Liberals provincially and federally. Can you explain to Nova Scotians that perhaps there's an optimistic scenario for your family here where they might do quite well and there could be another chapter for you politically?
Look, that's not what today is about, but I frankly am flattered by the suggestion, and a handful of people have reached out. But today is a decision that I've made for personal reasons, because my kids aren't getting any younger, and they deserve to have their dad around. I am going to remain engaged in politics. In what capacity, time will tell. I will remain open to different professional opportunities over the course of the next number of years. But for now, the focus is on the people who are closest to me. I should take this opportunity to congratulate Premier Houston. Tim and I have served in a overlapping constituency for the entirety of my time as an MP. We've worked well together. Despite a recent disagreement on one issue, we've had an opportunity to partner on some pretty important projects for our community. I was in the room during the meeting not much more than a week ago with the Prime Minister and Premier, which was very collaborative in nature. And so long as I continue to serve as the Member of Parliament for Central Nova, I'll work to help the federal government partner with the provincial government on issues of mutual concern. I should also say thank you to Zach Churchill, who I've known since we were both student leaders in Nova Scotia many years ago, for his time as the leader of the party as he bookends a career as an MLA. But today is not about a transition to some new political opportunity. It's about an opportunity to transition to being a father who's more available to his kids. We'll have an opportunity to think what comes next for our family, but the focus right now is on making sure that we do it together.
Thank you, Raphael.
Bonjour, Monsieur Freeland. Merci de prendre nos questions. Écoutez, je ne sais pas si vous êtes au courant, mais la vice-première ministre, Madame Freeland, vient d'annoncer sa démission du cabinet. Je ne sais pas si je vous l'apprends. Qu'est-ce que ça dit, votre démission, en même temps que celle de Madame Freeland, aujourd'hui, sur la situation au gouvernement?
C'est une nouvelle pour moi. C'est la première fois que j'entends cette nouvelle. Look, I'll tell you that I had the opportunity to work alongside Minister Freeland as her parliamentary secretary during the second half of the COVID-19 pandemic. I found her to be professional, supportive of me as a member of parliament, and I consider her a friend, and that friendship will continue long after my time in politics. What that says about not knowing her own take on the reasons behind that decision makes it very difficult for me to assess what it may mean. But my sense is that she's been an excellent team member to work alongside, and I continue to consider her a friend. When it comes to the government, if a portion of your question referred to my view on what it may mean for the government, is that as compared to the product on offer on the other side of the chamber, it's very clear that my own party supports the priorities that I think are most important to people at home. Investing in healthcare, putting money on the table to make life more affordable, doing something serious to address the pressing threat of climate change. So from my own perspective, the choice is clear as to who will offer a superior point of view to Canadians when it comes time for them to go to the ballot boxes. But in the meantime, questions about my colleague, Ms. Freeland's motivations would be best placed to her.
Judy Trin.
Minister Fraser, when you first took up this housing position as cabinet minister in 2023, you relished the fact that you were going to go up against Pierre Poilievre, that you could spar with him on his housing record. I'd like to know that in your time there as housing minister, you were also previously the immigration minister. There are these huge pressures in terms of immigration, which has led to housing pressures, and you are leaving without, I guess, completing the job. Are you concerned that with the fall economic statement, with the priorities that have shifted because of Donald Trump's entrance as the new president-elect, that there will be less money for housing, less money for immigration, and more focus on border and defense? And is that a concern, and is that on your mind? And what are you telling your colleagues in terms of what they should do with the portfolio?
Look, there's a lot, Judy, baked into that question, so I'll do my best to address it. And if I leave any element out, I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to remind me over the next couple of days. So first, when it comes to the nature of transitioning from a cabinet portfolio or from any professional opportunity, you will always realize there is another thing to do. When you're dealing with something like housing, which we characterize the right to housing to be one of progressive realization by character, is always going to have more to do. But I'm extremely proud of the work that we have gotten done. The fact that we've put together a national plan to solve the housing crisis that was celebrated as the most ambitious set of housing proposals in more than half a century, that has fundamentally shifted the way that our communities are zoned to allow for more density, for more livable communities, more transit-oriented development. The fact that we've got new tools to help young people save up for a down payment on their first home. The fact that we have made major investments in affordable housing for low-income families after a 30-year absence where the federal government has vacated that space. These are all things that barely scratch the surface of the proposals that we've advanced and turned into real policies, but nevertheless are having an extraordinary impact. And I expect we'll have an extraordinary impact for a long time. Similarly, with my time in immigration, we were able to welcome Ukrainians who were fleeing Vladimir Putin's unjust war of aggression. We were able to make good on our commitment to resettle 40,000 Afghan refugees, many of whom served alongside the Canadian Armed Forces. And we were able to ensure that on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic with a record-breaking labor shortage, that we kept the economy afloat. Now, that's not to say that there are not challenges that remain. There are. And we need to be real about them. But as you deal with a shifting landscape, as you pointed out, change in administration south of the border, issues around security and border integrity that we need to continue to take seriously, you realize very quickly your policy landscape needs to respond to the world as it exists around you. And with respect to the preamble to your question about relishing the opportunity to go head to head with Mr. Poilievre, the real opportunity for me is about solving a problem of national importance to help real people who live in real communities. Now, I enjoy our tete-a-tetes in question period as much as anyone. But I can tell you the reward you get from landing a zinger in the House of Commons pales in comparison to meeting someone who's benefiting from government policies that allow them to have a roof over their head. So I'm going to focus in whatever may come next for me, not on the opportunities as to who I might get to debate in public, but the problems that I'm going to get to solve and the difference that I'm going to make. And I hope people observe that over the course of my time in federal politics.
Antoine. Whoever's taking Antoine's question.
Maybe coming back to Ms. Freeland, you said earlier that you were learning the news as you were speaking. What does it say of your party, of the Prime Minister, of where the Liberals are at federally, that two key cabinet ministers are resigning at the same moment on a Monday morning of the fall economic statement?
Look, I can't speak to the motivations that my colleague, Ms. Freeland, may have. I can only speak for myself. Truth be told, I had intended, though I'd made this decision for myself a few months ago when I was home recovering from a surgery that took place in early September. And I got a few extra weeks spending time with my kids at home. And it felt like it was where I was supposed to be. I realized very quickly that just because I was home didn't mean that my 8-year-old daughter in particular was necessarily home with me all the time. She's built a social life of her own. She's having sleepovers with her cousins. She's out playing in the neighborhood with her friends. And you come to realize that you're kidding yourself if you think she's going to want to spend more time with you as a teenager than she does as an 8-year-old. Similarly, with my little guy, he's going to be going to school in a couple of years. He won't be home the way he is now during this tender age where he needs me and I need him. So for me, the motivation is not tied to the government, not tied to the Prime Minister. From my point of view, the Prime Minister has been uniquely supportive of me and the work that I've wanted to do in my community. Without his backing, we wouldn't have been able to twin the most dangerous stretch of highway in Nova Scotia. We wouldn't have been able to get money in place to remediate Boat Harbour, one of the worst cases of environmental racism in this country. We wouldn't have been able to build new community facilities like a Trenton Park revitalization, a new transit system for my hometown, a new DeCoste Performing Arts Centre, new libraries throughout my constituency, new recreational facilities. So he's been a good partner for me, for my province, and my announcement today is tied only to my desire to be a more present father and to be in my community. To the extent that you've got questions for my colleague, Ms. Freeland, by all means, I would invite you to pose them to her.
Okay, I believe that's all the time we have, unless